All right, let's just jump right in. Every time you tap your card, click to buy something, or send money to a friend, there's something huge happening just beneath the surface. The entire way we move money is being rebuilt from the ground up. It's this massive global race, and the finish line, it's all about making things real time.
And look, this isn't some high-level 10 years from now kind of thing. No, this is a shift that's going to hit your business, your bank, even how you split a pizza with friends. So the big question is, why now? Why is all this happening? And what's it really mean for how you and I use money every single day? Well, it really kicks off with this one stat, 46%. And let's be clear, that's not some tiny fraction. We're talking about nearly half. Half of all financial institutions on the planet are basically saying, you know what, we're not fully ready for where payments are headed. Just let that sink in for a moment.
And that number, that 46%, it points to this huge problem we're calling the readiness gap. It's this massive canyon, really, between what we, the customers, already expect and what a huge chunk of the financial industry can actually give us.
So, what's the real problem here? At its core, it's that the systems most banks are running on, they're like old, crumbling highways. Seriously, they were built for the traffic of, the 1990s? When payments were processed in these big, slow batches overnight. But today, they're completely gridlocked. They just can't handle the speed and the sheer amount of traffic from a digital world that literally never, ever sleeps.
And here's a visual of that gap. Yeah, just over half the industry says they feel pretty good, but that huge 46% chunk, that's a massive weak spot. These are banks and institutions openly admitting they're somewhere on the spectrum of kind of prepared to not prepared at all. They're stuck playing catch-up, and the race is only getting faster.
Okay, so how do they fix this? How do you close a gap that big? Well, the solution really comes down to two huge, powerful trends that are crashing together right now. First, moving everything to the cloud, and second, meeting this absolute non-negotiable demand for instant everything.
I mean, you really couldn't paint a clearer picture of the difference. You've got the old way, right? Slow, clunky systems that basically punch out at 5 p.m. And then you have the new way, instant, always connected, running 24/7, 365, just like the rest of the internet we live on.
Now, the industry is moving, but man, they're starting way behind. As of today, only a tiny 7% of institutions are fully on the cloud. But check this out. The shift is picking up serious speed. In just 5 years, that number is expected to jump to 25%. That's a huge leap, and it shows they're finally trying to get off those old, gridlocked digital highways.
And listen, this isn't just a nice-to-have thing. The numbers don't lie. As Jim Colasano from the Clearinghouse points out, over 40% of transactions are happening outside of traditional banking hours. Business just doesn't stop when the lights go off at the local branch. The whole idea of a 9-to-5 economy is dead, and our payment systems are being forced to catch up to that reality.
So to keep up with this around-the-clock demand, the industry is absolutely scrambling. We're talking about 41% of organizations planning to launch instant payment systems in just the next 2 years. The momentum here is it's huge, and it's paving the way for the next big thing.
And that relentless push for instant is directly leading to the rise of the next big disruptor. You're going to be hearing this acronym a lot, A-to-A payments, which stands for account-to-account payments. So what exactly is A-to-A? The easiest way to think about it is like digital cash. The money just moves straight from your bank account to someone else's, instantly. There's no middleman, no card network, none of that. It's faster, it's usually cheaper, and it's way more direct.
So what's really pushing this change? I mean, sure, you've got new rules and new tech, but when you ask the executives, they all point to the same thing, you. It's our demand for faster, simpler, smoother payments that's forcing the entire industry to evolve. Everything else is basically just a reaction to what we want.
And the predictions for growth are just wow. Almost 2/3 of the people in charge are expecting A-to-A to grow by more than 10%, not once, but every single year. So yeah, this isn't some little side project. This is absolutely on track to become what everyone just expects.
But here we are again, back at that readiness gap. Even though a massive 81% of institutions say they see what's coming and they're planning an upgrade, a full third of them admit they're really only doing the absolute bare minimum right now. It just goes to show there's a world of difference between knowing something's coming and actually being ready for it.
All right, that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, and it's a big one, regulation. Now, a lot of people hear regulation and they just groan, right? They think of it as a roadblock, but in this whole story, it's actually the opposite.
It's a catalyst. It's the thing that's forcing everyone to get moving.
So when you ask the leaders in this space, what's the next big innovation you're focused on, the answer is overwhelmingly clear. A-to-A push payments are number one. And right behind that, figuring out how to make all this instant stuff work across borders. That's the roadmap. That's where all the energy's going.
And you know what they say, follow the money. When you look at their budgets for 2025, you see this really interesting split. They're having to balance the stuff they have to do for regulation with the stuff they want to do to innovate. It proves it's not an either-or situation. The really smart companies, they're doing both at the same time.
But even with all that money being spent, we land on a number that should sound pretty familiar by now. 47%. That's how many organizations are still just playing defense, reacting to deadlines, or just plain struggling to keep their heads above water. Once again, we're looking at nearly half the industry just trying not to fall behind.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. The ones who are going to lose this race are the ones who see regulation as just a checklist, a chore they have to do. But the winners, they see it completely differently. They're using these new rules as a springboard. It's like a free pass, a funded excuse to finally build the modern, fast systems they should have built years ago. You know, this quote from Reed Lutnan at the U.S. Faster Payments Council just nails it. He says to imagine a frictionless payment from any country to another. That's the ultimate goal here. The end game isn't just about sending money faster across town. It's about creating a world where money can move across the globe as easily as you can send an email.
So, that brings us full circle. There's this quiet revolution happening, totally transforming how money works. And this whole race to modernize, it's not really about getting ready for some sci-fi future. It's about the financial world finally catching up to the way we live right now. Which leaves us with just one last thought to chew on. Is your bank ready for the future that you're already living in?